He's 9-5 with a 3.71 ERA. First pitch is at 7:10. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, print.
I just felt like we didn't have the right approach there mentally for the situation. But it is, they're young guys in front of their hometown crowd, and it's Kershaw. So that means something.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That's Pat Murphy after last night's game. Last night's Murphy presser made me nervous. Not that the season's going to fall apart or anything like that. It's all relative, right? When I say, hey, the Brewers are making me nervous, we all, I think, agree they're going to the playoffs. Like, the season isn't going to fall apart and crumble. Knock on wood. I guess it could. I just get really nervous when I hear a manager or a coach in any sport talk about, well, it's a young team. Players are young. It's like, ugh. Especially when you didn't hear it for long stretches of the season and then you start hearing it, 100 games in or something like that. It's like, it seems like the youth a lot of times comes up after a loss. I don't like that. I'm not a fan. I also got nervous listening to his presser last night because he kind of emptied the clip of cliches, and sometimes cliches are funny. We talked about this last night. We'll probably talk about it more tonight. Cliches can be funny too, but when Murphy is kind of rambling and he's grasping for cliches, it's like, I haven't heard that a lot from Murph. I don't like to hear that after a loss. Kind of sounds like a manager without any answers. And then the reverse splits with Kershaw, and I don't really want to talk about Pat Murphy's lineup construction from last night because I don't think it would have mattered. I don't know that flipping Joey Ortiz and Bryce Terang 1-9, I don't know that would have made a difference. I don't know that putting Garrett Mitchell as high as he was, I don't know that would have made a difference. I still wouldn't have done it. I probably wouldn't have put Garrett Mitchell at the top of the lineup against a lefty in Kershaw, and Pat Murphy's shown the propensity to flip Ortiz and Terang 1-9 based on a righty-lefty matchup. I probably wouldn't have hit Terang leadoff, especially with the way that he's been struggling in the second half, but I don't know that it would have mattered. He's rambling about reverse splits, and Kershaw's reverse splits is like, that makes the opposite of sense. Just say you were going with your gut, and then we'd all accept it and move on. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Going to talk about some of the big storylines around the NFL tonight, including what's going on with the Jets. Hassan Reddick. It's becoming a really interesting story, and I might be starting to side with the Jets a little bit. I'm not sure. Not fully, because I still think the Jets are dumb, but they're not as dumb as maybe I thought they were yesterday when this story broke. So we're going to talk about that. The Vikings announced today, or Kevin O'Connell, I guess, directly at his press conference, announced that J.J. McCarthy has an injured meniscus. We don't know how injured, and we don't know the full extent of the timeline. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And also, it wouldn't be a summer sports talk day in the year 2024 if we didn't get some update on Brandon Ayuk. So we'll talk about that as well. I also have a couple comments from Matt LaFleur to get to in hour number 2. My biggest takeaways from practice number whatever, I don't know what practice it was, but from today, 2 takeaways from Matt LaFleur's presser in 2 positions that I want to talk about specifically. And it's Tuesday. David Gasper, reviewing the Brew, will join us as well at about 5:15. 608-321-1670. If you'd like to call or text show, take some calls after our first segment. You can text as well. And Twitter, at Wisco Grant, the Facebook page, the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills. You can comment on the live stream as well. I'll do my best to keep an eye on it, but I can't watch everything at once. So heads up now as we're streaming the show, and we're on Twitter today. Looks like it's working, which is cool. I wanted to have that up and running yesterday. We didn't, so we had to wait until today. I'll do my best to watch the live stream comments, but I don't think I can watch everything at once. And if something's going to fall by the wayside, it's probably going to be the live stream. But go nuts. Go to town on the comments. I always think it's fun to comment on a live stream, so I'll do my best to watch it the best I can. I always say fan is short for fanatic, and I know it's beaten to death. And I said yesterday, I love cliches. Sometimes cliches can make me nervous. Heard a few too many of them from Pat Murphy last night. Kind of sounded like a manager without answers, like I said. But I do love cliches. I used to say fan is short for fanatic, kind of tongue-in-cheek, because it's something that I think bad sports talkers or corny sports talkers say all the time. Well, fan is short for fanatic, as if they invented the phrase, But then the Craig Counsell Cubs thing happened last November, and I had to listen to a lot of sports talk shows in the state of Wisconsin kind of talk down to fans. Fans were mad. How could Craig Counsell do this to us? I don't care how much money he signed for. How could he go to the Cubs? And there were so many sports talkers in the state on, radio and podcasts or whatever that I heard, which like, well, you do the same for your family. You're being irrational. You're being a fan. No. I will never tell you in this job that your emotions as a fan are invalid. So I've actually kind of come full circle on the phrase fan is short for fanatic. I used to think it was an overhyped cliche. I'd say it tongue in cheek, but now I think we need to be reminded that fan is short for fanatic because there's too many sports talk radio hosts in the state who are always talking down to fans. And that really became apparent to me when Craig Counsell went to the Cubs. So I'm never going to tell you how to fan. I'm never going to tell you that your feelings, your emotions are invalid. And I want you to remember that over the next 5 minutes because I'm about to be a massive fan. I hate the Los Angeles Dodgers so much. I hate all the things that they are and that they stand for and that they choose to be. I hate them. And my mom would always say, hate is a strong word. I wish it were stronger. I wish I could think of a stronger word. I mean it. I hate this team. And right now, it might be recency bias, probably is, but they're at the top of my list right now. Celtics are up there. Vikings and Bears, just because they're divisional rivals. The Niners, because they've knocked the Packers out of the playoffs a healthy amount of times, right? A certain number of times, and it wears on a man. The Niners' losses have worn on me. I really don't like Purdue basketball. I don't love their strategy of recruiting the tallest human being in the world and then a bunch of white shooting guards to play around him who look like they belong at Bemidji State. Like, I don't like Purdue, although it's not basketball season right now, so that fire's not burning as hot. I think the Dodgers are at the top of my list right now. I think they're number one. I hate this team. I hate everyone on it. I hate everything they stand for. I hate their payroll. I hate their manager. He stole one base once upon a time. I hate it. I hate it all. Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, 1, 2, 3, shoot me in the head. I hate it so much. And the worst is that every Brewers-Dodgers game feels the same. Every single one. I tweeted this last night, and I'll throw this tweet up on the live stream, but if you follow me on Twitter, you maybe see it. Or actually, I'm not going to throw it up on the live stream because I don't have it ready, but it's on my Twitter account. I tweeted last night, the Dodgers are the only team that can make me hate baseball more than the Brewers. I hate them so much. And the Brewers drive me up a wall. Now, it's a hatred of love. It's a crime of passion when I hate on the Brewers, but I do hate them a lot, and they make me hate baseball a lot. But I tweeted last night, the Dodgers are the only team that can make me hate baseball more than the Brewers. And I got a text from someone in the press box, and it's not Kurt Hogue, who comes on the show all the time. It's not Andrew Wagner, who comes on the show all the time. So not that this is groundbreaking insider information, but it's a text exchange that I shared with someone who reached out to me who was like, all of these games feel the same. The margin for error is so small. And the Brewers don't necessarily even play that bad, but it's one or two things, and then it snowballs, and then the Dodgers bullpen is too good, and their lineup is too good, and every single one of these games feels the same. Every single one, every single time, and I hate it, and I'm done with it, and I'm going to start losing my mind. Saturday night, I told you yesterday, Saturday was a banner Mount Rushmore sports day for the summer of 2024. I loved it. Olympic gold medal game, into the Packer preseason game, into Brewers Reds. Loved it. Saturday, I don't know that I've ever been more excited to sit down and watch the Milwaukee Brewers play baseball with how well they were playing and how much they were scoring. Tonight, I don't know. I mean, my parents are visiting this weekend. Maybe I'll clean my bathroom. Maybe I vacuumed on Sunday. I'll vacuum again. My carpet's going to be extra clean. Because I don't know that I can bring myself to watch this team tonight. I mean, obviously I will, but I'm going to do it under protest. I'm going to basically do it staring down the barrel of a shotgun because I have to watch it for the show. That's a lie. I don't have to watch it for the show. I could easily skip a baseball game and just talk Packers tomorrow. My body, my brain, my conscience will not let me miss the Brewer game tonight. And that's awful because I think I'm going to get home from work, and these 2.5 hours coming up tonight will be the worst 2 hours of my day. They should be the best 2 hours of my day, aside from this show, of course, which I enjoy every moment, every single time. I'm going to watch this game tonight, but I just know that I'm not excited about it. I want that on the record. A few actual baseball details from last night before we take our first break. The Peralta problem, the Freddie Peralta problem, and Freddie Peralta is a problem. 2 more home runs. Could have been 3 if not for Garrett Mitchell. I don't know that ball was going out, but if I say it was going out, it makes my anti-Freddie Peralta point stronger. So I'm just going to pretend that ball was going out and that Garrett Mitchell pulled it back. So 2 more home runs last night from Freddie Peralta. Could have been 3 if not for Garrett Mitchell. 6 innings, 4 runs. His ERA is now up to 4.11. Well, Grant, I mean, calm down a little bit. He gave up home runs to Ohtani and Mookie Betts. Those are some of the best baseball players in the league. Okay, sure, they are. What about every other game that I've watched this year? And I don't have Freddie Peralta's game log in front of me. I know for a fact that Freddie Peralta, every single start, is not facing Ohtani and Betts. I know there's a bunch of slaps in the division, in the National League. Freddie Peralta ain't facing the cream of the crop every single time he's out. And yet, he's giving up home runs. Okay, so you want to give him a pass for last night? Fine. Okay. Then let's talk about every other start for the last 2 months, because those have mostly been bad too, and he's given up home runs in all of those games too. Kurt Hogue tweeted last night, Freddie Peralta has now given up at least 1 home run in every start since June 24th. And in a lot of those games, he's given up more than 1. It's maddening. Dom Catronio last night on the post-game show, the Brewers Radio Network. Grant, you didn't enjoy the game. Why did you listen to multiple post-game shows? I don't know. You know what? Because I have a passion for my job, and I want to get the best information. All these little nuggets and tidbits. Dom Catronio had a bunch of them last night. He shared in the post-game show. Is it Brewers extra innings? I almost said Brewers OT. That would be the wrong sport. That would be Packers OT. I think it's extra innings on the Brewers Radio Network. Dom Catronio shared last night. The Brewers started 6-0 this season in games started by Freddie Peralta. That doesn't mean Freddie Peralta was the winning pitcher of record in all 6 of those games. In some of them, he was. But the Brewers won Freddie Peralta's first 6 starts of the season. And I'd rather have the team win the start than the actual pitcher record the win. You know, now they go hand in hand. If the pitcher records the win, that means the team is winning. But my point is, I would rather have the pitcher. That I like that. I like hearing that the Brewers are 6-0 in Freddie Peralta's first 6 starts. Since then, since May 5th, they are 8-10. And I'm no analytics expert. That is poor. The Brewers should not be sub 500 in Freddie Peralta starts, especially given they're 67-51. Like 15, 16 games over 500 this year. How can they be under 500 for any pitcher, let alone a guy who is supposed to be their ace this year? Last night, full count Freddie. It's no longer fastball Freddie's full count Freddie. 1-2-3 first inning. He only threw 11 pitches. And me, an idiot, sitting at home is like, we're going to get good Freddie Peralta tonight. The second inning, he threw 21 pitches, and he didn't give up a hit. That's not easy to do. Like, that's a lot of pitches. Now, he walked a guy, but still, it's not like there were multiple base runners on. 21 pitches in an inning in which he didn't give up a hit. So that's 32 pitches through 2 innings with no hits allowed. You know how many non-competitive pitches that is. How many wasted pitches that is. He threw 55 fastballs last night. Only 35 of them were for strikes. He just is throwing uncompetitive pitches way too often. And for a guy, again, that's supposed to be the team's ace, fair or unfair, not only has he not been good enough, selfishly, he's an absolutely brutal watch because he's out there working way harder than he should be, way harder than he needs to be. And we're going to talk about Colin Ray in a couple minutes after our first break. Talk about a guy working smarter, not harder. Not saying that Colin Ray doesn't work hard. I'm sure he does. Freddie Peralta out there, it's like, man, it's like John Henry. It's like watching John Henry swing a hammer, except John Henry was doing it to beat a steam drill. At least the legend goes. I don't know. I don't know what Freddie Peralta is doing it for, to try to go full on every single hitter he faces, because that's what it looks like. And it's a brutal watch. It's maddening. I get tired watching it. And I, like, selfishly, now I'm complaining as a fan. I said on last night's show, less than 24 hours ago, that sometimes I think sports fans in America are too obsessed with the enjoyment of the product. Like, every game is supposed to be perfectly catered to our enjoyment. It's supposed to be a beautiful television product. That's not what I'm saying. It's just like, I watch this guy. I'm like, man, just throw strikes. Just throw strikes. Or throw pitches that are close to strikes. That's another thing, right? If Freddie Peralta is missing the zone by a couple inches, that's one thing. You're making the hitter think. You're making the umpire think. You can buy a lot of extra strikes. If you're always living around the zone, every once in a while, you're going to bait an umpire into giving you a call that's not a strike. But if William Contreras has to go like this and throw his arm way up in the air on every other fastball you throw, like, the hitter's not engaged. The umpire's not engaged. As a viewer, I'm not engaged. I'm engaged, but I'm annoyed. For a guy that was supposed to be this team's ace this year, it's just a brutal watch. And I've heard this a lot today. Well, Grant, he's not really an ace. He's more of a number 3. Oh, okay. Wait, you know what? My bad. I misunderstood. Guys, last night, that loss doesn't count. He's a number 3. You don't get it. It's fine. I get it. He's not Corbin Burns. He's not Brandon Woodruff, but he needs to be better than he's been. And I don't know if that means getting together with Chris Hook. Everything I read about Colin Ray, again, who we're going to talk about next, is he's working with Chris Hook and tweaking and changing and improving. Freddie Peralta is just out there doing the pitching version of pissing in the wind, or at least that's what it looks like. And I understand that he's not Corbin Burns. He's probably not best suited to lead a rotation. Fine. But they're 8-10 in his last 18 starts after they started 6-0 in his starts up until May 5th. And that's really jarring for a team that's 15, 16 games over 500. It would be one thing if the team sucked and they were losing a lot. Well, obviously, then the pitcher's record isn't going to be good. But this team is good. And they're 8-10 in his last 18 starts. It's maddening. And it would be one thing if it was like Hobie Milner, if it was soft contact and it was unlucky, but it's not. He's getting shelled. And I get that last night it was the Dodgers, but next time he's going to go out and he's going to face some slap lineup who shouldn't be any good, and he's going to get tattooed, because that's what's been happening since the beginning of the month of May. Let's take a 3-minute break. Your calls and texts if you have Brewers thoughts. We're starting the show with the Brewers. Unlike last night, we started with the Packers. We'll get into football. We'll get back into the Brewers in hour number 2 because David Gasper is going to join us. It's Tuesday, reviewing the Brew. That'll be great. I'm excited to connect with him. It's the Wisco Sports Show. We're back in 3 minutes.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Big River Rally, August 16th and 17th in La Crosse, Wisconsin at the Vest Grounds. Friday night, Buck Cherry.
Y'all crazy, baby.
And Saturday night, Jacko.
Jacko, baby.
The Big River Rally.
And I'm gonna cut you down the side.
Get your tickets and find out more at BigRiverRally.com.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think his fastball's still very, very good. I think you probably see as a pitcher gets older in life, you know what I mean, that you lose maybe a little lift. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers say. My eyes tell me that his fastball's still really, really good. But when he's deep in counts all the time and that type of thing, and they've calibrated a little bit, I think that's where he. But I thought he was brilliant in the first inning, as good as I've seen him, and I thought he was really good in the second inning. He gave up the homer, settled in. I thought he was really, really good. I think that's an out. He gave up 2 infield hits and 2 homers. If he only gives up 2 runs and 2 homers to 2 of the best players in the game, you're like, okay, I'll take it. I thought a great outing.
Wisco Sports Show, it could have been a worse outing. I don't know if I'd call it a great outing. Sure, when you spin it like that, it's like, well, it's 2 infield hits and 2 home runs to 2 of the best players in baseball. Okay. Next time he pitches against the Nationals, I want him to be unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to play the Dodger card last night, well, it was Betts and Ohtani. Okay, great. But he's addicted to giving up home runs against everybody. It's not like the Dodgers caught him last night. This has been a trend. And I'm trying to be fair. I'm frustrated because I hate the Dodgers and I hate how Brewers Dodger games make me feel, turn me into a crabby individual, which I don't like. And I hold that against the Brewers. I hold that against Freddie Peralta. I understand the Dodgers were really good. That's a tough matchup for Freddie, and it could have been worse. It's the number I can't get out of my head. They're 8-10 in his last 18 starts, and they're a good team. They're running away with the division. A team running away with the division should not be markedly under 500 in games started by someone that was supposed to be their ace. Oh, Colin Ray's our ace. Oh, okay. I would also like Freddie Peralta to be good, though. We're not only allowed to have one good pitcher. We can have multiple. And maybe Freddie will find it. I don't know. Kurt Hogue wrote a good story about it. I'm assuming it's good. I have yet to read it. I was busy today. But he did write a story about fastball Freddie, or full count Freddie, as he's become. Jack Stern also wrote a really good story about Colin Ray today that I do want to get into. I did have a chance to read over that. David Gasper, reviewing the Brew, will join us in hour number 2. Loaded phone lines. This is what drives me nuts. Well, I guess it's a good problem. Last night, I was so excited to talk Packers. I was so ready with my takeaways from the first preseason game. I'm like, this is good. This is a Packers state. People love the Packers in Wisconsin. This is gonna drive phone calls. People are gonna love this. I gave my Packers takeaways, and Thomas and Lacrosse called in and gave a prediction. And then that really was it. And I talk about fastball Freddie in one regular season game, and I have 5 callers waiting on hold. Let's go to the call. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, Freddie Peralta is an ace in name only. He doesn't have it.
I think it's misinformation from the broadcast, because if you listen to Dillard and Ratino, like, he's still getting the label, like the production value of an ace. Cone Roller, by the way. Cone, thank you for joining us. That's still being said, but in name only. I think that's a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, and, if the playoffs started today, we would be in another one of those weird wild card series. And do we trust Freddie Peralta to be the guy that sets the tone in game 1 when you really only get 2 games at the most?
No. Right now it would be Colin Ray, because I kind of know what I'm getting from Colin Ray. Maybe he doesn't have as high of a ceiling, but if you look at his numbers, like over his last dozen starts or so, Colin Ray's striking out guys at basically the same clip as Freddie Peralta, and he's walking fewer guys.
Agreed. Yeah, I think you give the ball to Colin Ray for sure game 1. Right now, that would be against the Braves, I believe. So, we've had good luck with them. So
I was going to say, they killed him last week, but still, I don't feel good about that. My fear is that the Cubs are, and thank God the Cubs won last night and Counsell stepped in it. That was my one saving grace coming into work today, is I could make fun of our intern Austin for what Counsell did last night. But can you imagine if the Brewers were to host the Cubs in a wild card series? Oh my God. I don't even want to think about it.
Well, that would fare well for the Brewers, because, Chris Taylor was still killing us the last time Counsell won a playoff series.
The
So
last
that
time
wouldn't
Craig
worry me
Timber
too
was a
much.
thing, yeah, Chris Taylor was killing the Brewers in 2018. Yeah.
And that is where this hatred for the Dodgers, I think, started. 2018, Manny Machado, dirty play on Jesus Aguilar up the line. Chris Taylor, Yasiel Puig. Screw the Dodgers.
Oh, God. See, I was
elite to the very definition.
Well, it's the best team that money can buy. 2020, I think, is much more reflective of how I currently feel about the Dodgers, where it's like you're in every game, but you don't really feel like you're in every game, and all of the games kind of go the same way, and it's really frustrating. Like, I think of 2020 more than I feel 2018, because the Brewers were right there. They should have won that series, if we're being honest. I don't remember 2018 as, oh, that team had a big payroll. What were we supposed to do? You know?
Oh, yeah, but I think that was the peak of hatred for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I mean, who remembers that did we play the Dodgers in 2020 in the playoffs? I can't even remember.
Records say, I believe Jed Jerko and Justin Smoke were on the team. I remember so little of that season, which is bizarre because I wasn't doing anything that summer other than like going for bike rides and listening to sports radio. I should remember that season better than any other, and I don't remember anything, weirdly enough.
I think Keston Hiura had a pretty good year.
I know he did 19.
I do remember correctly.
Jed Jerko had a great year. Ryan Healy batted cleanup in one of those games. That I remember. It's mostly the bad things, mostly the wild card pennant that they get to hang in the stadium. I guess that's a positive.
True, I saw Anabam tweeting about that the other day.
He went to pay homage. I got loaded phone lines, Cone. Anything else before I move on?
Packers O-line, I think you're a little too concerned about them. You know, they might not have that one strength, but I don't see them really having a hole. And I think as an offensive line, it's more about the unit than the person. So
and
I'll leave you with that.
And I appreciate that, Conan. I know you're some sort of engineer. I believe offensive line is what we refer to as a weak link system. It's defined by its weakest player, not by its strongest. My worry, and we're going to talk about the offensive line and players along it later on in the show. My worry is that they have a lot of guys who are good. I wonder where's their great, or like with Bakhtiari Bulaga, they had great bookend tackles, or with Elton Jenkins, they had a great left guard. Who's their best offensive lineman? And how good is their best offensive line? That's my concern about the O-line. I think they'll probably be fine. We got to nitpick because this team is really good. We need things to nitpick. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant Bills, the lacrosse loggers are moving on, and I couldn't be more proud of the boys.
I haven't talked to Ben Kapanke of the Loggers this weekend, Thomas. I didn't know they were moving on. That's good to hear.
Get them on?
Well,
why don't you get them on?
Well, a lesson in topic selection. The Brewers are playing the Dodgers, and the Packers are coming up on another preseason game. It's not anti-Loggers. It's just there are other things going on.
Right. But guess what? The staff and interns, we held a playoff watch party, and boy, was it electric, man. You go and check out our, I think it's on Facebook and on our Instagram feed. We posted like a reel of all of us interns reacting to that last out. It was absolutely amazing.
So what have they moved on to now? How many more rounds would they have to go?
Oh, now, Grant, we're moving on to the Northwoods League Great Plains Championship. So it's Plains versus Plains. We beat, I believe it's St. Cloud we play. Then we're moving on to the official championship between Great Lakes and Great Plains. We're like, I think 2 or 3 games away from there. So we're inching closer.
Inching is the perfect word, Thomas. And because I got loaded phones, I'm going to do it. I probably should have done a little bit quicker yesterday and end our call there. When I stayed in a hotel in Dickinson, North Dakota 2 weekends ago, the TV in the hotel in this American had the Northwoods League Network, in the cable package. I can't even begin to try to think what cable package I'd need to buy in Madison, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I get it in North Dakota in the middle of nowhere because there's not much out there. They don't have the Packers, the Badgers, the Brewers, the Bucks. They got Northwoods League. I was just floored that I was like, I'll watch TV Land before bed because that's kind of always my go-to, and that's always my go-to in hotels. I'm like, the Northwoods League Network? Hell yeah. Thank you for the call, Thomas. One more call, and then we'll take a break. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Shame on you, Grant. You and Cone. How can you put Colin Ray above Tobias Myers? He's like a half-turn ERA better than them. I know it's a smaller sample size, but I think he's your number one guy.
Look, that's a great problem to have, Big Ron. Big Ron in Jersey is here. We have 2 aces, and somehow neither one of them is Freddie Peralta.
Yeah, I think Freddie, if he continues to falter, through the rest of the season and one of these newer acquisitions like Savale or someone steps up, we haven't seen it from anyone yet. But he's on. I mean, you only really need 3 starters in the postseason, given all the days off that you have in between games. So you might only need a 3 starting pitcher rotation, and I think Freddie's on the verge of, I think he'd be on my 3rd starter after Myers and Ray.
I was going to say, do we have 3 starters though? Who's number 3? We don't. I have not suffered 26 years of Brewers fandom on planet Earth to watch Aaron Savali start a playoff game. I won't do it. I won't. I will not do that. Give me a bullpen game. Give me Bryce Wilson before Aaron Savali. Give me Bryce Wilson or give me death. Give me death over Savali. I'm serious.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, bullpen game would be an option too. But yeah, I'd say right now Freddie's still in the 3 slot. Would be our 3rd starting pitcher in a playoff series, but that's at risk. And he had I think going into yesterday's game, he had a north of a 7 ERA in the 1st inning. So when he got out of the 1st inning without giving up any runs, I thought we were in the clear.
That's what I'm saying.
Settle down.
That's what I'm saying. And
when he misses a pitch, he misses like by 2 feet.
Dude, I'm surprised.
That's why
William Contreras is going to need rotator cuff surgery because he's constantly throwing his arm way up in the air. Like, can Freddie Peralta just tighten up his not even the strike zone, but the zone in which he throws pitches? Because so many of them are non-competitive.
Yeah. Hey, so just quickly before you give me the boot here, I want to review. I came in with a second investment opportunity on your show.
Please.
And I said it was going to make up the money we lost in Ethereum, and it not only has, but then some. The Ethereum is right now down 18% from when I pitched it. It was at 3,300. It's down to 2,700. So 6 on 33 is about 18% loss. But the SVIX, which I pitched last time, was at 22. It's now at 29. That's 7 on 22. That's 32% up.
Okay.
And it. I think that's in a week. I think I called I don't know if it was a week or 2 weeks ago. I lose track of time. But so you're up 32% on SVIX. You're down 18% on Ethereum. That is a net return of positive 14%. So if you just invested an equal amount in both, you'd be up 14% on your portfolio of 2 investments. Not that a portfolio of 2 investments is diversified by any means.
Does that constitute a portfolio? How many investments do we need for a portfolio, Big Ron? You're the expert
for
on this.
Statistically significant, if you take a stats class, for statistically significant sample size, you need about 20.
How many Freddie Peralta starts need to constitute an accurate sample before someone suggests we move him to the bullpen? I won't, but I know someone will, and I just want to make sure we wait long enough before throwing that out there.
Well, I think 20 is the magic number. How many starts does he have? He's been pretty healthy, right? I think he's got to be right around there.
Well, the stat that I keep hammering, they started 6-0 in his starts, and since they've gone 8-10 in his starts, so that's 18 plus 6, carry the 5, that's 24 starts. So we're well on our way. We're over 20, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, there's intangibles, right? I mean, he's under, he's under a very club-friendly contract, but he's still under a long-term contract. There's just intangibles. He's a veteran guy. He's performed in the past.
Those are tangibles, though. Like, I understand what you're saying, but
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I'm not saying he should go to the bullpen. Big Ron, I appreciate it. That's perfect. That wraps up our caller segment. We're going to come back, and I want to talk a little bit about Colin Ray, who's going tonight. I'm not suggesting we should move him to the bullpen. The only reason I even joke about it is because when we started Bill's show earlier today, the first comment on the live stream was someone yelling in all caps with exclamation parts about how Freddie Peralta should be moved to the bullpen. And again, that's ridiculous, but excellent content. You know what I mean? Like, just outstanding content. God, we need Colin Ray tonight. Let's talk about him and how he's reinvented himself a little bit as a pitcher. We're going to lean on Jack Stern from Brew Crew Ball for a couple of graphics and statistics to learn how Colin Ray has kind of adapted and changed his role as a pitcher so far this year. David Gasper reviewing the Brew, set to join us hour number 2. Going to get into some Packer and NFL stories as well. Loaded Wisco Sports Show. We'll be back after this.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
He's a consummate pitcher, like this guy is Hall of Famer for a reason. He'd be the first to tell you his stuff isn't as good, but he knows how to pitch, and that kid behind the plate is one of the most underrated players in the game, and people all know about him, but that kid's good, and they work together good, and Yeah, I haven't seen our young guys respond that way. You know what I mean? I haven't seen our young guys kind of seem like that the moment was a lot, and a little surprised, but Kershaw was great. He deserves everything he's going to get in this game. He works his tail off, and I've heard he's an incredible leader, and, so he was good. We still had our chances. We still had chances.
It's Pat Murphy last night. They did have chances. They didn't have a ton of them. Pretty sleepy game on offense for the Brewers. Clayton Kershaw's really good, though. We'll see how they fare tonight. Colin Ray on the mound and not Freddie Peralta. Full count Freddie, as he has become. That name is really starting to take hold, mostly because Shock Jock radio show hosts won't stop using it. That's normally how it works. 608-321-1670 if you would like to join the show. I want to talk about Colin Ray and some improvements that he's made over the last few weeks. Appreciate the text. Eau Claire Chris on his feeling for the Dodgers says, detest, despise, loathe, abhor, disdain. Just trying to help. I think the Dodgers are my least favorite team, my most hated team in professional sports. Yeah, the Brewers lost to him last night. So ask me a couple months ago, would have been Purdue basketball. Ask me a couple months ago, would have been the Niner, Packers, Bears, Packers, Vikings. That'll become more of a thing when the season starts. But right now, and we're doing the show today, I think it's the Dodgers. I just hate this team. Jay Krebs says Brewers might have a Freddie problem, but the rest of the league has a Ray and Myers problem. Freddie isn't having a great year. It is what it is. That's all right. If we're being reasonable about it, I guess that's fine. Grain Man Mike says, couldn't agree with you more about Peralta. It's no longer fastball Freddie. It's fast exit Freddie. Not for lack of pitches, though. He might only pitch 4 or 5 innings, but he gets his pitches in. He finds a way to throw 100 pitches, not miles per hour. Mike and Portage, greetings and salutations, Grant Bills. What I said at the start of the season on Over the Line is coming true. Colin Ray is turning into our ace. He has only improved game by game and is now the most consistent and paints the corners like Picasso paints a portrait. By the way, go back to the mustache, only shave the beard. The mustache never goes anywhere. Which, first of all, it's a little weird of all of you guys. You're always bringing up the mustache. Some people just have facial hair and it exists and no one needs to talk about it. The mustache doesn't change. It's just occasionally the rest of my face gets long because I'm lazy. And shaving in the morning before work it's a lot of work. Not to just be lazy, but I don't know. It's a lot of work. And I work in radio, but now I'm live streaming, so maybe it's become more of a problem. I want to talk about Colin Ray. Mike and Portage, I didn't know that you called your shot at the beginning of the season on Over the Line, but I tip my cap. If you were like, Colin Ray's going to be our ace this year, you deserve credit for that. He's got a 3.38 ERA and 122.5 innings this season. So we've reached the point now, Big Ron was talking about sample sizes. We've reached the point where we can't really call him an unsung hero anymore. He's just a good pitcher, right? I was reading a really good story up at Brewer Fanatic by Jack Stern, who is all over some of the really nitty-gritty baseball stuff. And I recommend you, first of all, I recommend you follow him on Twitter, on X. But if you like reading the more nitty-gritty, the mechanics behind pitching, pitch selection, that kind of thing, he's just awesome. And he pointed out in a piece that he wrote today, in his last 7 outings, talking about Colin Ray, he's got a 2.9 ERA and a strikeout percentage that jumped from 15% to 28%. His walk percentage hasn't moved. His walk percentage is still only 6%. For reference, Freddie Peralta has a strikeout rate of 28% and a walk rate of 9%. So Colin Ray, and I don't mean to just bang on Freddie Peralta, I just wanted a point of reference. Colin Ray now has the same strikeout percentage, at least in his recent sample, of Freddie Peralta with a better walk percentage. Again, we can't call him underrated. We can't call him an unsung hero anymore. He's just good. He's just a good pitcher. It's just who he's become. But recently, he's become less reliant on his defense. He pitches a little bit less to contact, relies less on good batted ball luck. Good batted ball luck for the Brewers, bad batted ball luck for the opposition, for the hitters, right? He's relying a little bit less on batted ball luck and taking matters into his own hands, making his own luck, as I say. If you want to take the umpire out of the equation, if you want to take bad batted ball luck, as Hobie Milner has experienced all year long, then strike the guys out. Batted ball luck is not a factor when you're striking more guys out, and that's exactly what Colin Ray has done, at least in his most recent sample, right? Again, in his last 7 outings, his strikeout percentage has gone from 15% to almost 30%. Now, again, I'm not ripping off Jack's story because I'm telling you, go read it. Go follow Jack and go read his story. but I am taking this directly from his story. He's done a couple of things in recent starts to I think, put himself in a better spot to deceive hitters and to miss bats, right? To throw pitches by players despite not having disgusting Paul Skeens level 100-mile-an-hour pitches, right? One thing is he's stayed closed longer in his delivery, right? And there's pictures of this. It's really subtle. If you go read Jack's story, it's really subtle. You need to look at it a little bit, but he's doing a better job keeping the ball behind his head and staying closed off to hitters until his plant foot is almost all the way down the mound, until he's had a chance to extend, right? Now, Freddie, I listened to Dom Catronio talk about this last night. Freddie's getting less extension. His extension used to be upwards of 7 feet. It's now like closer to 6.5 feet, which means the ball is coming out of his hand earlier, and therefore the hitter has more time to get a look at it, right? Josh Hader forever. I don't know that Josh Hader was the most precise pitcher. I don't know if he could put his fastball in a keyhole like some of the best pitchers of all time. Josh Hader's strength, and I still think this is his strength to a degree, is that he threw really hard and hitters couldn't pick the ball up coming out of his hand because he had a weird delivery and he kept the ball behind him and he kept the ball concealed. Well, Colin Ray is no Josh Hader. I don't need to tell you that. I don't need to be a Jack Stern to tell you that. But Colin Ray has tapped into that idea a little bit. Keep the ball concealed a little bit longer. Wait to release that ball a little bit longer, and hitters have less time. Now, it's a tiny fraction of a second, but that tiny fraction of a second can make a difference, right? He's keeping that ball. He's staying closed off to hitters longer through the process of delivering the ball, which is a little bit easier. The hitters have to second guess for a split second longer. And again, at this level, that can make all the difference. He's also improved against left-handed hitters specifically, which was his problem early on in the year. Now, if you're watching on the live stream, I'm going to show you a little bit of a picture, a graphic here. And for our radio audience, I'm going to do my best to describe it. He's throwing more sinkers. He's upped his sinker usage about 5 or 6% in recent starts. And he's completely and totally abandoned the idea of throwing it into lefties. And he's just throwing it down and away, like most of the rest of his pitch mix. So if you're watching the live stream, I'll show you the heat map here of what it's looked like in recent starts. He is completely and totally throwing his sinkers down and away to left-handed pitchers. When you throw a sinker down and in to a left-handed hitter, if that hitter gets a good swing on it, it's actually kind of playing in to the swing path of a hitter. Now they have to read it correctly and they have to put a good swing on it. But if that hitter, that lefty, picks up that sinker down and in, there's a good chance that they're going to hammer it because it's kind of right in the wheelhouse. Down and away, it's a different game. It fits with the rest of his arsenal a little bit better. And even if the hitter picks it up and puts a good swing on it, they got to try to shoot it down the line. They got to, right, as Rock would say, right, a little bit of an in and out swing. They got to wait on it. And that's probably not a ball that they're going to jack out of the ballpark. Now, maybe some of the best, biggest, strongest power hitters in the league, maybe they could do it. But your average run-of-the-mill left-handed hitter is not going to drive that sinker out of the ballpark, even if they pick it up, which, again, is getting more difficult with Colin Ray because he's staying closed off and he's concealing that ball longer. So Colin Ray is no longer a consistent innings eater that avoid walks and plays to his defense. Early on in the year, he was a guy that let his elite defense behind him make plays, avoid giving out free passes, and just eat innings and try to be consistent. He's still that guy. His walk rate is still really low. He's just found little ways working with Chris Hook to get more swings and misses, which takes a little batted ball luck out of the equation, which means you're not going to have an inning most likely these days with Colin Ray like you have with Hobie Milner, where it's like, well, he gave up an infield hit and he gave, a little bloop single. Okay, but if you're able to, strike out one or two guys in that inning, that buzzard's luck really doesn't come around to hurt you. You're less dependent on batted ball luck to get you out of an inning if you're getting swings and misses, if you're missing bats. And Colin Ray, in conjunction with Chris Hook, has done a really good job, adding a little bit more swing and miss to his pitch profile. And again, go read Jack Stern's story. It's really, really good. You can see more graphics. You can see the pictures of exactly how he's concealing the ball a little better. It's subtle, but you can see it. And if that's something that you're interested in, always recommend the work of Jack Stern. We have a lot of good people on the Brewers beat. Jack's one of them. Another, David Gasper reviewing the Brew. He's going to join us in about a half hour. Until Gasper gets here, I want to talk football, some big NFL stories today, and a couple of comments from Matt LaFleur that I think are worth discussing as we continue to make our way through training camp and towards preseason game number 2 coming up this weekend. It's the Wisco Sports Show. We're back here in 3 minutes.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
So let's go Sports Show. I always love some real nerdy, degenerate level baseball talk. Colin Ray, possibly the Brewers ace. It's not Freddie Peralta. Every time Freddie Peralta pitches poorly, which has been often the last couple of months, everyone reminds me, well, Grant, he's not the ace. He's really a number 3. Okay, well, he really stinks right now. I don't really care how we label him. I need him to stop giving up home runs. I need him to be a little bit more trustworthy. I don't need him to be Corbin Burns. I just need him to be Freddie Peralta from last year even. I would settle for that. 2021 is probably a bit much to ask, but needs to be better than this. Colin Ray on the bump tonight. We'll talk with David Gasper in about 20 minutes. Couple big NFL stories today worth mentioning. J.J. McCarthy has a meniscus injury, and the initial reporting I thought was confusing because Adam Schefter basically tweeted out, McCarthy is having knee surgery. The surgery will determine how much time he needs to miss. And I read that, and I'm like, so he's having exploratory surgery? Because that wording, I wouldn't have worded it that way. That makes it seem like, well, they got to get in there and see what's going on, right? Which leads to like, well, we don't know what the issue is. We don't know how bad it will be. Others then reported, and Kevin O'Connell for the Vikings announced, the meniscus is torn. They're just not sure how torn. So they'll go in to repair it, and then while they're in there, they'll realize how much repair it needs, and then, of course, then we'll know how much time he will miss. Okay. But Adam Schefter with the first report. A month ago, I would have considered this injury news small potatoes. As much as an injury news can be small potatoes. Obviously, I hope McCarthy's okay, and you never want to see guys get hurt. But my point is, Darnold was going to start the season anyways. The Vikings had announced that. I said yesterday, again, it's not ideal for a rookie to miss camp, so maybe small potatoes is the wrong term, but this was not an earth-shattering injury a month ago. It was a setback. But after watching J.J. McCarthy play on Saturday, I'm not sure that J.J. McCarthy, I'm not sure he was going to stay on the bench for very long. Maybe Darnold played a little bit, but J.J. McCarthy, I think, was going to play sooner rather than later. Now it will be later. We just don't know how much later because of his knee injury, which is a bummer. He looked really good this last weekend. Another story, the Jets and Hassan Reddick continue to go back and forth. This broke yesterday afternoon that he's requested a trade. And when Schefter first announced that, I kind of laughed and I was like, dumbass Jets. Acquired a player that wanted a new contract and then didn't give him a new contract. As time has passed, we're now, 24, 32, 35 hours into this thing. I still think the Jets are dumb, but I see their side of this situation. The Jets are basically saying, we told him all along that we won't be paying him and we expect him to play. And Hassan Reddick showed up, did his press conference, took his physical, did all the things. I suppose there's a chance that the Jets lied to him, but I don't think you can get away with that because agents remember that. Players remember that. I don't think even a team like the Jets could do that. I don't think any team could do it and get away with it. It would just cook you. Florio wrote today, and it was an excellent point, that Reddick should have refused to take the physical. If he wasn't going to play without a new deal, he should have made this trade contingent on a physical, and he should have just refused to take the physical before getting a contract. So I get why the Jets are frustrated. I get why Reddick is frustrated. However, it seems like both sides have made massive miscalculations here, and therefore both deserve the situation that they're in, right? It seems like these two are a very happy and convenient pair because there's a little dysfunction following both parties. Look, the Jets maybe had a misunderstanding. The Jets maybe feel spurned here, but the Jets acquired an unhappy player with seemingly no plan to make the player happy. They get what they deserve. Also, I guess the Steelers have a deal for Brandon Ayuk, and everyone's just waiting on Brandon to decide. I think he should be forced to take this deal. He's wasted too much. Everyone's time and effort has been wasted. He should have to take this deal. He can't back out because of cold feet at this point. Brandon Ayuk saga rolls on. I just want it to be over. 2-minute update from Zach Heilpern, Hour 2 Wisco Sports Show next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers return to practice today as they gear up for the second preseason game this Sunday at Denver. It will feature a continued competition for the starting safety spot opposite free agent addition Xavier McKinney. One of the guys in the mix is second-round pick Javon Bullard. The Georgia product has run with the first team for much of the last week. Coach Matt LaFleur was asked if that was an indication of which way they were leaning.
I mean, yeah, I think he's in contention, and he's got to keep pushing and keep, putting it out there. And he did a lot of great things in the game too. The thing that you notice is just the level of physicality he plays with. He's got great instincts and his versatility. I mean, whether it's safety, nickel, I feel like he's a guy that can do either or.
Packers will hold a joint practice with the Broncos on Friday in Denver. The game again on Sunday. Turn to the Badgers. After 2 weeks in Platteville, the team back inside Camp Randall Stadium this morning as fall camp continued. Though Coach Luke Fickell was not ready to name a starting quarterback, transfer Tyler Van Dyke once again took all the first-team reps and appears poised to be with the starters when the Badgers open the season 2 weeks from this Friday against Western Michigan.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers and Dodgers will match up again tonight at American Family Field. L.A. took the opener 5-2 last night. It was Milwaukee's second straight loss. Their lead in the NL Central stands at 7.5 games on the Cardinals. First pitch is at 7:10. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Pritt.
I just felt like we didn't have the right approach there mentally for the situation. But it is, they're young guys in front of their hometown crowd, and it's Kershaw. So that means something.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That comment from Pat Murphy last night, talking about how the young guys didn't meet the moment. Maybe the moment was a little too big for him. I guess it's Clayton Kershaw, but also, like, it's a Monday night game in Milwaukee at home. I don't know, they played the Dodgers this year before. I just don't know if I buy what Pat Murphy was selling post-game last night. And that's fine. Like, you're not going to win every game. You're certainly not going to win every game against the Dodgers. They're great. But I don't know that I was a big fan of a lot of what I heard from Murphy. But then again, it's a press conference. Who really cares? Sports radio and press conference, they go hand in hand. In fact, we're going to hear in just a moment from Matt LaFleur's presser earlier today talking about one player and one position group that I think we should talk about. David Gasper reviewing the Brew, set to join us after our next break. There's a caller that's been waiting on hold, though, and I don't want to make him wait any longer. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Mr. Grant Bills. We finally have some football to talk about.
Vagabond John. I'm glad that I don't think I heard from you yesterday. Did I hear from you yesterday?
No. Mondays have suddenly turned busy on the work side, so I usually can't get out of there till about 6.
That's okay.
I listened afterwards though, and great conversation. You know, I think you put a little bit too much weight into some of my criticism of some of the other Packers commentary in the off season, talking about receivers and are they going to be stars or whatnot. I think the way that you handled and set up the conversation was exactly what the preseason is about, and is exactly the spirit of the preseason. We care about these guys that are fighting for roster spots. And I wanted to call late last week to kind of set up how I'm watching preseason games.
Please.
But to me, they're exciting because the guys that are playing in the second half, and look, if you're a casual football fan, turn it off, right? Don't watch. If you don't like it, don't watch it. It's fine. But these guys are the ones that are fighting for their jobs. Right?
The second, by the way, to add to what you're saying, the second half of preseason games is what makes the NFL unique relative to the NBA or Major League Baseball. I think it's important. You don't have to watch it, but I think it matters, and I think the NFL needs to keep it. I agree.
And if they splash, maybe they get cut still. Maybe Grant DuBose gets cut, right? Maybe this random running back they got from the USFL that they picked up today. I don't have the name on the top of my head, but it's a guy out of nowhere. He played for a nobody school, but he had some run in the USFL.
Did he play for Grand Valley State? Come on, you're a Midwesterner. That's not a nobody school.
I could not tell you what state Grand Valley State is in, but
speaking of casual, you're a Midwest Great Lake region casual. Throw the C word around.
Grant, what state is that in? What state is that?
It's in Michigan.
Grand Valley. Oh, is it? Okay.
It's Division II, I believe.
Does Michigan even have valleys? This is a whole other conversation.
I don't know.
How is it Grand Valley State and not like in Oklahoma or like Tennessee, the hills and the valleys?
But, yeah, I can't. Continue. I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. But I think the second half of these games, these are the players that are fighting for their lives. And learning about a guy that you highlighted yesterday, Grant DuBose, he's got the story. He played during COVID for another small school, of which I will not name. But he ended up taking a break from football and bagging groceries. And now you get to watch him on live TV. His friends and family get to watch him on live TV, fighting for that one chance to sit on somebody's practice squad to change their life. So to me, the preseason, that's what it's about. If you want to get more applicable, right, let's talk about a guy nobody mentioned yesterday, and that's Jacob Monk.
I was gonna. That's what we're gonna talk about next. This is brilliant. This is good synergy. You can tell that you've been calling for a while because that's literally what we're gonna talk about after we get off the phone.
When your offensive line coach is just saying, I looked at him before the game, and the look on his face, the way that he played in the second half, trying to rip people's limbs off. Grant, if you're going to bury guys, if they're going to be your second and third string guys on a 53-man roster, those are the guys that you want to be looking to rip people's limbs off. When your coaches are saying that about you, and DeBose got the same energy. So that was Luke Butkus on Jacob Monk, right, trying to rip people's limbs off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just looking at these quotes from Packers.com, and you're looking at Jason Vrabel, the passing game coordinator, talking about DeBose just in the second half of these preseason games, finishing corners into the dirt.
Yep.
Those are the things that the TV camera is probably going to pan away from. You might not even see that. But to hear that these guys that are fighting for rosters, and I think that's a part of the mentality that, you know, the Vrabel mentality that you saw in Tennessee, the Matt LaFleur mentality that's trying to build, Goody's drafting, you know, you can talk about the failure of some of the tight end picks that he's had, but he's drafting dudes that are trying to put people into the dirt. And for me to see that and hear that for these guys that are fighting for roster spots, that's what I want. I don't want a diva wide receiver dominating our conversation. I want to be talking about these, you know, third, fourth string guys that are fighting for their lives, just looking to end somebody's life in the second half of these preseason games, because that's what's going to get them to stick.
Well, and to your point about putting guys in the ground, and Vagabond John, I appreciate it. I have a cut of Matt LaFleur, and maybe we'll play this. We got to get to David Gasper, so I want to get this Jacob Monk in now, and I'm glad that you brought him up. But Matt LaFleur said earlier today that Jason Vrabel has used Grant Dubow's blocking video as teaching tape. The guy who's competing and fighting to make this roster. So I'm with you. The bottom of the roster wide receivers, it should be that guy. Last year it was Malik Heath. I think Grant Dubow's potentially could have more upside as an actual receiver than Malik Heath. So if we need to settle on a final guy in the roster, I'm not trying to overreact to Saturday, but I think Grant Dubow's has a really good shot to be that guy. Jacob Monk. Let's talk about Jacob Monk. Matt LaFleur said earlier today, I have a couple of comments about Jacob Monk, and this is going to lead to an ultimate point that I'm going to make. I'm not just playing these comments to play these comments, but let's listen to Matt LaFleur a little bit. Jacob Monk bringing energy, bringing juice to the field, or at least so said Mike Clemens when he captured this or captioned this audio cut to send to me.
Well, I think you could see it when he was playing out there, very passionate. I don't know if you guys saw, I think it was when we handed off to Emmanuel, we scored a touchdown. Like, he's in the end zone, beating on his own helmet and acting all crazy. But I love the passion. That's what we want. We want guys that love this game, that are going to pour everything into it, that are going to maximize their abilities. And I think he's one of those guys.
He's Jacob Monk, their 5th round pick. Matt LaFleur talks about his ability to get out of his stance quickly.
I think that's big time when you have a guy, especially at the center position, that can reach. We expect them to be able to reach shades, but when they can reach 2 eyes or overtake even in a combination block, if they can overtake a 3 technique, that's pretty big time. So, but yeah, you're always looking for that good initial quickness. We teach those guys to throw their hat and run. And when they're capable of doing that, that gives you a big advantage offensively.
And lastly, Matt LaFleur talked about how he's looked good at guard, not just at center.
I think he's a guy that, and he's going to get a lot of time. You'll see him at all the interior spots, at left guard, center, right guard. Just that's going to be part of his job.
So here's my takeaway. Listening to Matt LaFleur's comments, a lot of the tweets from Saturday's game, but also from practice today from Packers beat reporters, were about Jacob Monk and how he's impressing. Here's my takeaway. And I'll make this bet. I will pull a Mike in Portage and I'll call my shot. I'll give a little bit of a prediction here. Josh Myers will be the center this season unless he gets hurt. And if he gets hurt and has to miss any time, we are trending towards Jacob Monk probably being that guy to slide in to be the backup center. And I think Josh Myers better pray for his job security that there's a learning curve for Jacob Monk. Because I think the Packers like Josh Myers. I don't know that they love him. I think they like him. And they're not looking to actively get better there because it's center. And as long as Josh Myers isn't a turnstile and he can snap the ball and get into protections, it's probably fine. And continuity there is important. That matters. But if Josh Myers misses any time, Jacob Monk might have an opportunity to get into that job. And I don't know that the bar will be very high to clear Josh Myers. That's something that could happen this year. Let me tell you what will happen next offseason. The Packers are going to John Runyon Jr. Josh Myers. That's what's going to happen. They like Josh Myers. They don't love him. They don't love him enough to give him a second contract. They will slide in a young guy who they think can do the job fine enough for way less money. And I think it'll probably be Jacob Monk. Could be Sean Ryan, but next year Sean Ryan will be going into year 4. Jacob Monk next year theoretically would be going into year 2. I think Jacob Monk will probably be the Packers center in 2025. unless something crazy changes, he might end up being the Packers center this year. It could happen. I just don't know that the Packers are actively looking to improve at center, because if they were actively looking to improve at center, it wouldn't have been very hard. You know what I mean? It's not like for David Bakhtiari's tenure, it's like, well, they're not really looking to improve at left tackle. Yeah, because I don't know that they could have. They had David Bakhtiari. If they were looking to improve at center, it wouldn't have been that hard. They could have gone and got guys who were better than Josh Myers. Not leagues better than Josh Myers and not cheap on a rookie deal like Josh Myers. But Jacob Monk might be that guy this year if Josh Myers has to miss time, and I'm almost certain that he will be that guy next year. The same way that John Runyon Jr. is like, man, we really like you, but you're not that good where we want to extend you, and you're not that good where we think we can't replace you with someone on a way cheaper deal. And that's looking to be how it lines up. Sean Ryan might be the swing guard this year. It might be Jacob Monk. I don't know. Sean Ryan has looked pretty good. I think Jacob Monk's probably the future center of the Packers, and it might be at some point this year if Josh Myers misses time, and I'm dollars to donuts going to bet that it very easily could be next year. Send me a text, 608-321-1670. You can tweet the show at Wisco Grant as well. We're going to take a break and come back with David Gasper reviewing the Brew next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels here. Get your two-wheel engines revved up. Here it comes. The Big River Rally coming to La Crosse, August 16th and 17th, where the river meets the road. Join us for all the action. There's going to be a stunt show, a bike show, food trucks, vendors of all types, and great music. Buck Cherry rocking Friday night, and yes, we're going to ride. I'm going to be leading the 100-plus mile ride on Saturday the 17th, and then bringing you back with the headliner Jackal taking the stage later that night. For tickets and info, go to BigRiverRally.com. That's BigRiverRally.com, and I'll see you there.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Going to get back into football. Jacob Monk, the story of Packers training camp today. I also want to talk about the nickel corner position because Keyshawn Nixon has been that guy. They paid him, we assume, to continue to be that guy, but Javon Bullard is making it interesting. I think Kalen King, there might be some other players on this roster who size up nicely at nickel corner too, now replacing Keyshawn Nixon and his veteran experience, his connection with the team. Like we're not just going to throw that out, but it's interesting. It's worth talking about. Right now, David Gasper, reviewing the Brew, is joining us, and we're actually going to bring him in on the live stream. And give me a little bit of grace here as we figure this out for the first time. Gasper, can you hear me okay? Hold on, Gasper. Let me see. How do I bring you in here? Let me see. Oh, I got you. Can you hear me, Gasper?
Okay, now you're sounding much clearer.
Yeah, there you go. There, I got you. David Gasper reviewing the Brew. How's it going,
There
friend?
it is. Yeah. How's it going?
It's going excellent, as I figured.
Finally in here.
Yeah, I got us both on the stream. So I started the show maybe a little aggressive, complaining
Say
about
hi to
Freddie Peralta. Oh, you got the dog in the car.
Millie.
Hi,
Can make
Millie.
your radio debut.
Oh, what a sweetheart. Is she mad at Freddie
She's
Peralta
a
too?
little
Because
camera shy for the first time ever.
all of my listeners are mad at Freddie Peralta. Is Millie mad at Freddie Peralta? Where do we stand on Freddie in the Gasper household?
Oh, Millie was given a big sigh yesterday with Freddie Peralta's performance. I mean, it's kind of frustrating. You're expecting more out of Freddie. You'd love to have more out of him. Just kind of being like your big name, big pitcher. But it is such a tough Dodgers lineup. I mean, Mookie Betts, Tani taking you yard. And Shohei exactly, something that hasn't happened to great pitchers before. But still, it's just kind of an indication of, or a continuation of, some struggles from Freddie this season.
Well, that's the problem. He gets banged around by the Dodgers and gives up a couple home runs to the Dodgers. Okay, fine. But then I want him to be able to come and give an awesome start against the Pirates or the Red. You know what I mean? And the other teams along the schedule as well, and he hasn't been. So what's his issue? The way that David Gasper sees the game, and I might get a different answer from any Brewers analyst that I ask, but I'm asking David Gasper, when you and your eyes watch Freddie Peralta, what's his issue and what can he change and fix?
I mean, obviously it's the long ball. I mean, that keeps on getting him. I mean, he's given up a home run in every single start going back to like mid-June. Like that's something that he's really got to crack down on, and keeping the ball in the ballpark and, keeping the ball on the ground. And that's important for any pitcher's success, really. But it seems to especially be burning Peralta, just with, this season when everything piles up on him and he gives up these runs. It's usually because of the long ball. So when you have those, one or two pitches, whatever it is, a game where you just kind of leave it down the middle, or you don't execute your pitch, and you miss, you're missing kind of in the hot zone for these hitters. And, sometimes when you don't execute a pitch correctly, because that's really what it's all about. I mean, you can call the best pitches all you want. You have to execute them. And, sometimes if you miss on executing a pitch, it misses down in the dirt. It misses outside. It misses out of the zone. And sometimes when you don't execute a pitch correctly, it ends up right down the heart of the plate, and it ends up as a long ball. So that's something that Freddie really has to crack down on.
It seems like when Freddie Peralta, when he tries to pitch outside the zone, right, where he's got an idea of, okay, I don't want to groove this one. I want to make this guy chase. I want to be a little bit more. Those pitches are going way outside the zone. Like, he needs to find a happy medium of throwing a ball 4 inches outside instead of 2 feet outside or 2 feet above the zone. Like, how is that a mental thing?
Yeah.
What's the problem there?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a like a waste pitch versus an effective pitch there. Some pitches that miss outside that are balls, they can still be effective in terms of getting the hitter guessing or getting them a certain look, got a certain pitch that you want them to have, and then just kind of varying things up. But when you miss that far outside, it can kind of have it may not have an effect on it. As Millie is saying as well over here. But yeah, for Peralta, whether it's mechanical or kind of a mindset thing, that's really kind of for him to really kind of get an understanding of. And, it's hard to really kind of tell from the outside.
It's funny because, I'm reading about improvements that Colin Ray has made. And Chris Hook seems to be such an effective pitching coach. Getting with this guy, let's tweak that. Let's find a way to improve this. And I would assume he's having those conversations with Freddie Peralta. And while Colin Ray has become a better and more complete pitcher as the season goes along, it's like Freddie Peralta is right. That's what worries me. Is I know the Brewers have the means in that organization and in their facilities and in the staff. And it makes me worry that Freddie's aging or something's wearing down or there's something. I don't know that he's not healthy or what, but he's just the opposite.
He says he's healthy.
Basically everyone else in the staff.
Yeah. I mean, he says he's healthy. He's 27, and Grant, you and I are like 27. So if he's aging, then we're really aging. But still, I don't think it's that. I think there's just like obviously they're going to be having conversations about how to improve his performance and that kind of stuff, and they go through that process after every single start and getting ready for the next one. So I don't think it's that. But whatever it is, they either haven't found the right adjustment yet, or he's still missing on whatever it is, and not being able to make that change. Obviously, things have really worked well for Colin Ray. Colin Ray and Freddie Peralta have different skill sets, obviously, with their pitch arsenals and how they have to operate. But Peralta, they're going to continue to tinker and work on things there, I'm sure. And they're going to continue to do that with Colin Ray as well.
David Gasper reviewing the Brewers here. 2 players, a pitcher and a hitter. I'm not really sure what they're doing with either. And I want you to help me understand it's roster, it's 40-man kind of machinations and maneuvering. So DL Hall has been sent down, but I think he's still one of their better pitchers. So explain to me why they did that. And then Tyler Black, who's up and in the lineup today at DH. Tell me the thought process behind what they're doing with both of those guys.
Yeah, so we asked Murphy about that the other day and just kind of what the plan was going to be, if Hall's sticking in the rotation or not. And Murphy just kind of brings up that he's got options. And, I mean, you got all these injured guys that are going to be coming back. You got Hudson coming back. You got McGill that's going to be coming back soon. He just threw a live BP session yesterday. You got a couple of other arms there that are going to be returning. And you've only got so many roster spots. You've only got 13 roster spots for active pitchers. So you're going to have to find a way to make that work. Obviously, you brought in Savali and Montas for the rotation. That kind of fills out, gives you your 5. So it's harder for Hall to kind of fill in, but they still want him to get those kinds of opportunities. So you needed an extra bullpen arm with Hobie Milner going on the IL, and with Hall there, you had 6 rotation guys, 7 bullpen arms. You needed the extra bullpen arm. So Hudson comes back. Hall has to be the one to go down because he's the only one that's got options that they really can send down, because the only other guy really with options in that starting rotation is Tobias Myers, and he's been arguably your best starter. So you can't really option him either. So Hall's really kind of the only logical choice there. So Murphy, he made mention, it's like, look, the guys with options, they may end up having to go down as we kind of, try and maneuver this roster. Having those minor league options, that's why they're so important to the team when they get some of these guys. And they're going to utilize them as much as they can, because they have to. They've had all these pitchers hurt, and then all these other guys come up, and they've become, really an important part of the team. I mean, Jared Koenig was not really a first thought of anybody as a bullpen arm coming into the season, but he's been so important to the success of this bullpen that you can't send him down. I mean, he has options, but can you really send down Jared Koenig? I think Devin Williams technically has options, but you're not going to option Devin Williams. So you're running kind of low on guys. Hyams doesn't have options. I don't think Milner has options anymore. Bryce Wilson doesn't have options. Joe Ross doesn't have options. So, you have a select few group of guys that actually can be optioned down, and DL Hall was one of them. You needed the bullpen arm, so he gets the call.
That was the perfect answer. That's exactly what I was looking for. The nuts and bolts behind why, because it's not just this guy has been better than that guy, we're going to keep him and send him down. It's right. More complicated than that. Although I I will tweet complaints that Joe Ross still remains at the big league level while others don't. I understand there's more to it than that, but don't let the facts get in the way of a good tweet. I'll ask you about another pair of players, 2 hitters, Turang and Ortiz. Both were brilliant in the first half. We thought Ortiz is our shortstop of the future. This is the cornerstone of the Corbin Burns trade. He hasn't been as good. Turang hasn't been as good. What have you seen from those 2 infielders, first half versus second half? What's their outlook for you?
Yeah, I mean, for Turang and Ortiz, I mean, obviously it's been a bit of a struggle for Turang these past couple of weeks, and he's had some better moments. You know, he had the opposite field home run over the weekend, but still kind of overall struggling. Joey Ortiz has certainly been much better. You know, now that he's finally kind of getting past the neck issue and, you know, trying to come back and facing that kind of pressure to perform up to the previous level. So I think he's now kind of finally getting back to what he was before and hitting like he was before that neck injury. So that's a really good sign for the Brewers. So being able to get Ortiz going, that's great. They're going to need to get Turang going again as well because, you know, he can just be such a dynamic leadoff option for this team. And plus, you know, then you got, you know, Jackson Chourio that you can line up behind him. You know, Chourio's been great in that leadoff spot as well, but Chourio's got a little bit more power to him. So, you know, putting him in that second or third spot may be a little bit better for overall lineup construction, but still, you know, getting Turang going, you know, obviously it's been a bit more of a struggle in the second half, but, you know, they're going to need to get him going again.
David Gasper reviewing the Brew long homestand. You're no doubt going to be at the ballpark a ton. Any stories that you're working on? Anything that we can watch for over these next couple of days as the Brewers are at home now for a nice stretch?
Yeah, we got something coming up on Jacob Mizrowski that's going to be coming up on the site here in a little bit because, you know, he's getting close. And, you know, Craig Yoho, he's really also been fantastic down there in AAA. He could be a bullpen option here at some point soon. And so we got something coming up on Yoho as well. So yeah, I'm excited for those guys that are going to be coming up and the articles about them that we're going to be having as well.
And both guys with options to tie our conversation with a nice neat little bow, which I know Matt Arnold definitely appreciates. And both guys that he talked about right leading into the draft when you were in the dugout and you asked him about both of them. So we'll read your report and you're right up at reviewing the Brew. Go enjoy the dog park with Millie. Is that where you guys are rolling up to?
I'm coming back home here, so we're going to be going inside, and we're both going to be getting some dinner.
Get some dinner, and then settle in and get ready to get really mad about the Brewers and the Dodgers game. That's what I'm looking forward to tonight. So thank you for your time, Gasper.
That's just a Tuesday night, man. That's just how we roll.
I know. Go home and get mad about the Brewers. Take care, friend. Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
David Gasper reviewing the Brew. Appreciate that guy. Coming home from work, and I appreciate him kind of tucking us into his schedule and keeping a hand on the dog and keeping Millie calm. I have met Millie. She is a sweetheart. Big baseball fan, but not a Freddie Peralta fan, apparently, as you heard. Couple of texts here. Clemhead Mike, he says, I completely understand your hatred of the Dodgers. I hate them too. I've had the same hatred of the Yankees for over 55 years since before the Brewers existed, and I was a Twins fan. It's nice to know that your hatred transfers over, Mike. I appreciate it. Bobby in Menominee says, you throw it over or under the barrel and in on the hands. Pitching really isn't that difficult, which is how guys throwing high 80 fastballs have struck out guys forever. Live stream already worth it for the graphic. I don't know what graphic you're referring to, but yeah, the live stream is up. If you're just joining the show, it's on Twitter today. We finally got approved for a blue check mark. We are now a verified show. We're a verified community. That is excellent. On Facebook, the Facebook page, and on YouTube as well. I started a YouTube page. You can go subscribe to it. I understand that watching on Facebook or Twitter is really convenient, but YouTube is the way I described it yesterday. It's very stable, right? Whereas if you're watching on Twitter, you kind of got to leave Twitter open on your phone. Same with Facebook. If you're watching at home on a laptop or like you wanted to throw it on a Roku or on an Apple TV, YouTube's just a very solid, sturdy app. So that's why you can go subscribe to the YouTube channel, but it's going to be streaming there every night. And maybe I'll post some other videos there and, extra content, but the live stream is up and you can comment on it. Kinger says Twitch is better. Well, I didn't want to buy the premium version of the software, so I'm limited to 3 platforms. So we're gonna do 3 for now. But glad. Well, Kinger, you're watching and commenting on YouTube, so it can't be that bad. I appreciate the comment though. Thank you for listening. When we come back, let's get back to Matt LaFleur's comments. We'll get back into the Packers, and I want to talk about the nickel corner position because that's something that's all of a sudden position's been labeled a competition by the Packers scribes, and it became a talking point during the press conference of Matt LaFleur today. So I think it's something we should discuss. The Wisco Sports Show, back after this.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's big time. That's something that we absolutely emphasize here, whether you're the number one receiver or not. All those guys got to block. They understand that, and they've embraced that. And I heard a saying once, no block, no rock. So they all want the rock.
No block, no rock. That goes hard as hell. Matt LaFleur earlier today talking about Grant DuBose's blocking and how I guess Jason Vrabel used it on a teaching tape. We talked about Grant DuBose yesterday, and I threw all sorts of qualifiers before my Grant DuBose comments. I said, yes, it's only preseason. Yes, it's only training camp. Yes, we always get excited about guys towards the bottom of their position groups on the roster. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, there might be a good chance that the 6th or 7th wide receiver isn't a concern or a worry or something we even think about once the season actually gets started. Of course. But the season hasn't started yet, and the roster cutdown hasn't happened yet. So today, this week, these are things that we're going to talk about. And I don't think Grant DuBose is on some path to be the Packers' best wide receiver. But there's Dobbs, Watson, Reed, Wicks, Melton. That's 5. I don't think they're keeping 7. So that leaves a spot for Toure or Malik Heath or Grant DuBose. And out of that group, I think we can all agree, I've seen the Samori Toure movie enough. I'd like to watch another movie. And if that's Malik Heath, fine. He was good in his role for the Packers last year, which was a blocker. Grant DuBose is a great blocker too. I also think he can be a pretty solid wide receiver. So I would like him at the bottom of the roster if he continues to play and practice and look the way that he's looked after basically redshirting last year. So that was one comment from Matt LaFleur earlier today. And that joke about number one wide receivers, the quote that went viral, at least on Packers internet yesterday, was that Matt LaFleur wants to vomit when he hears the term number one wide receiver. Matthew Collar, who I'd like to get on the show at some point, he covers the Vikings for Purple Insider. He's been on the show a bunch. Quote tweeted that and was like, I don't know. I never hear people complaining about Justin Jefferson's designation as wide receiver number one because Justin Jefferson is unbelievable, right? So of course. But I had to stir it up, and I got in his replies. I was like, yeah, Matthew, we're a little different over here in Green Bay. Here in Green Bay, we cheer for the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back, which I'm just trying to be a pain in the ass. But then a bunch of Packers people like jumped in the mentions and were arguing like, no, I'd rather have the Packers wide receiving core. I wouldn't want Justin Jefferson. It's like, okay, I would love Justin Jefferson. I would love him as a number one wide receiver. It's this current Packers roster is not conducive to a number one wide receiver. If they had Devontae Adams, it's different. If they had Justin Jefferson, it would be different. We're going to hear a little bit more from Matt LaFleur, continue our Jacob Monk discussion, and talk about the nickel corner position. But first, I want to take one call, 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Eric on I-90.
I knew it. Eric on I-90. How are you, Eric?
I'm great. I'm hard charging right at you on a Tuesday afternoon westbound.
Oh.
On Interstate 90.
I love that. I love that. Well, and also I'm glad that we have a chance to talk today because breaking news, a little bit of a professional reset. If you're just joining the show, JJ McCarthy's got a little procedure coming up on his knee, so he might miss some time. Your rookie quarterback, Eric, as a Vikings fan.
Yeah, I heard that. And in the end, that is probably a good thing because there would have been a lot of temptation to move him up faster. And I think it's in the end, they should just keep this other quarterback in and just let him learn a little bit. Let's let him learn a little bit. You know?
But didn't you maybe warm up to the idea a little bit watching him in that first preseason game that he could maybe play a little bit sooner than we thought? That's what I thought watching him. It's like, maybe he's a little bit more ready. Maybe he doesn't need to sit for so long.
That wasn't like a warm up. That was like an 800-volt microwave warm up. It was like a chainsaw in the hot tub. Yeah, we were all warmed up about that. Yeah, as a fan, but we can't be like fans running. You can't let the inmates run the asylum, right?
What's gotten into you with expressions tonight? You're just unloading the clip here.
I don't know. I got that chainsaw in the hot tub from you.
Yeah, well, I got it from Bill Simmons. That's a classic Simmonsism. Right. No, and I'm with you. Like Darnold is good. He's not great, but he will be the guy to usher in JJ McCarthy. I thought that JJ McCarthy needed a lot of work and needed a lot of time. And I know it's only one preseason game, but I watched him Saturday. It's like, man, he could probably take over sooner rather than later. And now this injury is going to slow him down a bit.
I believe that's true, but I believe I believe it isn't just the quarterback room that's new there. The running back room is pretty new. Listen to me, my room. They've got, they got an entirely new defense. There's a lot to handle there. A lot of, us engineers would call them variables that you don't quite know yet.
Yes.
You guys have got your variables kind of simmered down just a little
That's
bit.
a word used by lots of folks. That's not just, don't gatekeep the word variables as an engineer. That's a lot of people use that word.
Right.
Right.
They do.
All
But
right.
we use it a lot. We're trying to control variables.
It's true.
We're trying to eliminate variables and, within the process. So I think that this may be, this is not a big deal. I don't want to see him hurt at all. No. And I was extremely delighted to watch his play, but it is preseason. Let's keep our heads about it.
Of
just
course.
a little bit.
Of course.
You're
allowed to get excited, Eric. You're allowed to, he looked really good. That's okay to be happy and excited about it.
Yeah, it is. But I think that this year, whatever he's got going on with his knee, I mean, from what I understand about it, they're going to get in there, look at it, and it could be just a little scraping action or something like that. That's what I've dug into it so far,
It looks like
So
you're
I'm
caught up.
keeping track. I'm on top of it.
Good.
We got a lot of good things going there, Minnesota. You guys have counted out just about every football team that ever existed so far this year. So, have you guys heard about the he's in Green Bay there. He's the rehydration engineer there. He's even excellent. I mean, well,
The water bottle guy? Is that what you mean?
yeah, I mean, those people are even excellent. I mean, you are digging down now with the seventh wide receiver. Are you to the seventh wide receiver? Is he good too? Because I'm getting a little bit blown away. Ooh, we got a chopper coming in here. I'm not kidding. Chopper coming in low at Fort McCoy.
Well,
Anyway,
drive safe, Eric. Technically sixth wide receiver, not seventh. Let's not get carried away. I'm not a maniac here.
All right.
Thank you,
Well,
Eric.
Grant, you have a good night. And we'll talk more.
Outstanding sign off, Eric. You really nailed that thing to the cross. We will talk more. It sounded like there was maybe one more thing. Thank you, Eric. It's okay, Eric. Get excited about your team. Your quarterback looked unbelievable on Saturday. Those are throws that Kirk Cousins has never made. He's on the run. He's moving around. He had moxie. Get excited about it. Don't call a Wisconsin sports radio show poo-poo JJ McCarthy and then make fun of us for getting excited about, again, the sixth wide receiver, not the seventh. I'm not a psychopath. Seventh wide receiver, that would be too much. Sixth wide receiver, that's in bounds. It's this time of year. It's what we do. Let's talk about not the wide receiver position, although I did want to play that Matt LaFleur cut because we did reference it. I want to talk about the nickel corner position because that was, I don't know that I'd call it the story of the day. I think the two things that I saw tweeted about and talked about the most on the Packers internet was Jacob Monk, who's really impressed, and Matt LaFleur gave multiple answers to multiple questions about Jacob Monk today, and the position of nickel cornerback, right? So let's hear that answer. Matt LaFleur was asked, and this is kind of, I don't know exactly how the question was worded. The question was something along the lines of, is nickel cornerback a competition or is it Keyshawn Nixon's job? And why I don't really like that question is because obviously the coach is going to say, well, everything's a competition. You're kind of giving the coach an out, but he does give his thoughts on some of the players. Here's Matt LaFleur. Let's take a listen.
I think it's all competition. So we'll let it play out. And, even like we said earlier, throughout the course of the season, there's going to be competition. And we're trying to get our best players out there, the guys that give us the best chance to win. And there's nothing to say that you can't have multiple groupings as well. And a lot of teams will do that, just depending upon what they want to play. You could have a lot of different bodies in there. Some teams will have a big nickel where they get more of a safety body type in there and versus their regular nickel. And it's just however it shakes out.
Javon Bullard has been a player that's really flashed there. Now, they signed Xavier McKinney, which I have to remind myself of, which seems insane. I occasionally forget that we have Josh Jacobs and that we have Xavier McKinney. I say we because I'm an owner. I forget those guys are on the team. I've been more focused on Javon Bullard, their second-round pick, and then Evan Williams, who I believe was their fourth-round pick. I've been focused on those rookies because this time of year in training camp, it's the first time we're getting to look at these guys. Preseason, they're playing a lot. Evan Williams was great. I think he had 6 total tackles, solo tackles on Saturday, and then also that forced fumble. Javon Bullard's looked really good in the slot. I'm not trying to replace Keyshawn Nixon. I just love the idea that last year, safety was their biggest weakness on defense, arguably. Probably. Let's just leave it. We don't need to get into the weeds. Let's just say safety was a huge weakness for them last year, and it was a big reason why I think they struggled and didn't have quite enough juice against the Niners to win. Now, the offense could have won the game too. I'm not discounting that, but we're looking to improve everywhere across the board. Again, because I'm an owner. So you're looking to improve the defense, even though obviously, yes, the offense had chances to win that game. Safety, a big part of that. They go from not really having any safeties I trust to Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, Javon Bullard. They have so many safeties. Oladapo, too, who is a guy that I think that's the first time I even said his name on the show since he's been drafted. One of them could actually scoot down and spell Keyshawn Nixon at the slot corner. Or, package depending, they might rotate guys through there. And I saw tweets about that earlier today. Maybe it was from Andy Herman. I'll try to go find that over the break, but it seems to be going really well with those young safeties and with Xavier McKinney. I mean, that's supposed to be the known quantity. You gave him $70 million, so we should be able to write that guy in pen. But trying to figure out how all the other guys fit in there as well. And like Kalen King, their 7th-round corner pick from Penn State, he was playing a little bit at slot corner during family night. So that's a possibility as well. It really looks like Goody on the back end of the defense had a very similar draft this year to the draft that he had at wide receiver and tight end last year. Now, I would have liked a corner or two mixed in there, but if Stokes is healthy and Jair's got his mind right, this team is good enough now with the star power at safety and the injection of young talent. By the way, I say star power of McKinney. I say young burgeoning talent with Bullard and with Evan Williams. I'm not getting carried away with those guys. I'm excited about them, but I'm not going to call them stars. They played in one preseason game, but McKinney absolutely better be a star. They paid him $70 million. Time for your thoughts in our final segment of the show, 608-321-1670. If you want to text or call, I'll take a peek at the comments on the live stream as well. That can be a little bit of an adventure, but one more segment, why not? We'll wrap up the Wisco Sports Show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Last segment of the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bill. A lot of good Packers discussion tonight and good Brewers discussion. Good event session back towards 4 o'clock about pretty Peralta. Full count Freddie. We'd like to see fastball Freddie again. I'd like to see him make a return. They're 8-10 in his last 18 starts. It's just not good enough. And I know folks are like, well, he's not an ace. He's a number 3. Like, okay. You can change his designation, but the results still stink. Right? We can label him however you want. He just hasn't been good enough. It's hard to be under 500 in Freddie Peralta starts when the team is 15 games over and have been for most of the year. Like the Brewers are winning a lot more games than they're losing. And Freddie Peralta, who is loosely in quotes or designated before the season as the ace, like, how are you under 500 in his starts? Especially when you started he started the season 6-0 in games started by him. Recently, they're 8-10 in his last 18 starts. It's not good enough. Before we took the last break, I said I would look it up. I found it. Matt LaFleur, this is from Zach Cruz, Packers Wire, said Matt LaFleur says it's possible that the Packers will use, quote, multiple groupings in the nickel defense. Talked about a, quote, big nickel with a safety type in the slot, one way for getting Javon Bullard into the slot. Let's listen to that answer one more time from Matt LaFleur. And I don't like the question, or I don't like how it's labeled in my email that I got from Mike Clemens. I don't know the actual question that the beat reporter asked. I don't know who asked it. Don't ask a football coach, hey, is this guy won the job or is it a competition? What do you think he's going to say? What do you think he's going to say? Well, actually, nope, it's locked up. I mean, we'll let the guys pretend that it's not, but it is. Of course he's going to say it's a competition. Ask the question differently. There's a better way to get this information, but here's Matt LaFleur loosely talking about the nickel cornerback position.
I think it's all competition. So we'll let it play out. And, even like we said earlier, throughout the course of the season, there's going to be competition. And we're trying to get our best players out there, the guys that give us the best chance to win. And there's nothing to say that you can't have multiple groupings as well. And a lot of teams will do that, just depending upon what they want to play. You could have a lot of different bodies in there. Some teams will have a big nickel where they get more of a safety body type in there, and
big nickel
versus their regular nickel. And it's just however it shakes out.
Big Nickel sounds like a band name. There's a band based somewhere near La Crosse, or they play in La Crosse. They've played at Moon Tunes and other places, called Big Liquor, country cover band. I always thought that was a funny name and a good name, not just like a bit like a Lonely Island thing, like Big Liquor. I'd go see that country band. If they were playing at a big tent just outside town selling beers, I'd go watch a band called Big Liquor. I bet they play 90s countries covers. I'd be there. Big Nickel, not quite the same. Still would be a good band name. I like that the Packers are willing to try different guys at different spots. And again, this is preseason talk. This is training camp talk. Chances are we get to the season and there's going to be a nickel corner. And we know who it is. And it's probably not going to change. And they're probably not going to completely reinvent the playbook to get this guy and that guy. This is all talk. Very similar to, this is something we do in the preseason as well. It's like, well, you can try to sneak that guy onto the practice squad, but I think someone else will probably snatch him up. Probably not, though. Probably not. We always think going into cutdown day, well, you might be able to sneak this guy into the practice squad, but chances are another team's going to want him. And the players that are fighting to make the roster, they not only got to make the roster, but then they got to make the roster again when all the other guys come available. I don't have the number in front of me, the number of players that are cut by one team that are immediately picked up by another team, it's shockingly low for the discourse that we have around it. Because if you just listen to sports talk radio and you listen to Packers podcasts and you read blogs, it's like, well, all these guys, they're putting something on tape for the rest of the league. And if they get cut here, they're going to find a job. And no way the Packers sneak this guy into the practice squad because someone else put in a claim. Probably not, though. Usually not. There's a small handful. I want to say it's like 10. Conservatively. I actually want to say that it's less than 10. But I don't want to be shockingly wrong. And we'll wait. I guess we'll wait for cut down day to happen. And that information will be published one way or another. Someone will aggregate it. It's never the number that you think it's going to be. It's never like every team said, oh, that guy's available. Well, we'll get rid of this guy. We'll bring him in. It doesn't work that way. We talk about it like it works that way, but it doesn't. Now, normally we get lost in the preseason sauce a little bit, and we're talking about, are they going to keep 6 wide receivers? Are they going to keep 7? Who should the 6th guy be? Normally, it doesn't matter. I think, and I know Eric on I-90 was giving me crap for this, I think wide receiver 6 is going to matter. I think that player is going to be important. And I think it should be Grant DuBose at this point. I don't want Toure, and I would take Grant DuBose over Heath because Heath was more of a physical enforcer blocker guy. Grant DuBose can be that guy too. And unlike Malik Heath, he can actually be a wide receiver with wide receiver traits, who could get better, who could develop, who could actually maybe have a ceiling, right? Or maybe not. He's the 6th wide receiver. But if we're judging potential 6 wide receivers against each other, Grant DuBose is my favorite at this moment in time. Brewers lineup is out. They play again tonight, 7:10. I hate the Dodgers so much. The lineup is Terang, Churio, Contreras. Black is hitting cleanup and hitting DH. Adames, Mitchell, Hoskins, Frelick, Ortiz. It's actually probably my preferred lineup at this moment in time. It's very rare where we read a lineup and it's like, oh, that's what I would have done. I like that. That's a good lineup. This one I like. For the game that he doesn't think Blake Perkins' calf injury will be season ending. I love when coaches say things like that. It's like, well, I didn't think that was on the board. I didn't think a season-ending calf injury. I didn't think that option was on the board. But now that you said it, I mean, Pat Murphy's never been one to underestimate the length and the severity of injuries, right? He never underestimates, never downplays. All right, enjoy the Brewer game tonight. Try to enjoy the Brewer game tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk more Packers, talk more Brewers then. Thanks for listening.